This is the Seahawkers Podcast, episode 275. I'm Brandon Schultz, member of the Military Seahawkers, and joining me, my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
Dude, fired up today. Seahawks are now 5-0 in the world's ugliest top. And I can't even hardly complain. It's exciting. First place, NFC West, baby.
First place in the NFC West. The Seahawks are 10-2, just the 12th time in franchise history that the Seahawks have won 10 or more games, and it happened just 5 times in franchise history prior to Pete Carroll, 7 times since Russell Wilson was drafted in 2012.
That's amazing. I didn't realize it was that much of a rarity. I mean, it's one of those things, you know, you're having a special season when you kind of get to that double-digit mark this early, but it's hard to remember exactly how many times that's happened. I guess it goes to show you just how fortunate we are this year and how much we should be enjoying this.
Yeah, and just the fact that there was one season that was 9 wins, and it was still a winning season under Russell Wilson.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing, and they do seem to be on track to at least give us a really fun ride through the playoffs, and it's exciting. It's fun to watch, especially when you've seen them go up against 3 teams over the last 3 weeks that are all playoff caliber or should have been playoff caliber, or at least have units that are playoff caliber, right? Like Eagles defense.
Yeah.
And
they lose.
See them.
Although the Eagles defense didn't show up in Miami for whatever reason.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But it is fun to watch. It's something that is exciting, and it gives me a lot of hope. I think the Vikings were a solid test to see where we kind of are, and we're a couple cuts above them. Now they just need to figure out how to just hold on to, say, I don't know, a 17-point lead going into the fourth.
Yeah, well, the Broncos had a little bit of a hard time with that, and fortunately the Seahawks able to do what the Broncos couldn't and finish it out, although the Seahawks did make it interesting at the end. But Jason Myers, we get to see him kick a late field goal. That's kind of nice considering some of his struggles in the past this season, but he gets a 36-yarder. They kick it back to the Vikings, and I guess while we're at the end, why not just hear how it ended?
Here's Jason Myers again. This one he's going to kick on the ground. He's going to let it roll down the field. C.J. Ham picks it up at the 15. He's out to the 30, where he barrels forward. Did the ball come out? He may have fumbled the ball. The Seahawks say he did. At the 30-yard line, they're going to unpile. The Seahawks say they got it. Seahawks ball. Seahawks are going to win this game. Travis Homer comes out of the pile with the ball. C.J. Ham tries to return it. He gets stood up and stripped, and the Seahawks are going to win on one more takeaway. That is 3 on the night for the Seahawks.
So how happy were you that we didn't have to see Kirk Cousins with the ball at all down 7, just to even watch them attempt a potential drive for a touchdown late in the game?
Yeah, I literally could not care less. There was, 20 seconds?
There was 20 seconds, yeah. And
0 timeouts.
Considering what he had done on the previous drive, too.
Considering that every person on the Vikings is a mere mortal, you're not going to score a touchdown in 20 seconds with no timeouts. You're not. I mean, it'd be one of the most fluky things that's ever happened in the world, and we already suffered one of the more fluky things that ever happens in a game earlier on in the game with Russell's pick.
Yeah.
So I'm not thinking that those two things are going to both happen in one game. Wasn't worried at all at that point. Flat couldn't care less.
Yeah, the Minneapolis Miracle happened in Minneapolis. You didn't expect that it would happen at CenturyLink.
Well, and we all know that the way the Seahawks play defense with 2 minutes left or, in one of these sort of situations, basically Pete would have lined up the whole team at the goal line. And there's no way they were going to cross the goal line. It's just not happening. Nobody's going to try to jump a route like they did on Diggs for the Minneapolis Miracle. Plus, with the way the secondary and the DBs had played all night, you sans one play.
McDougal already screwed up early on in the fourth quarter, allowing the 58-yard touchdown as he went to go cover the tight end and left Treadwell wide open for the touchdown.
That was just unbelievably maddening to watch that kind of unravel a little bit there for a minute, and for them to finally, put the brakes on the whole thing. But, the Metcalf fumble and then McDougal just inexplicably letting a guy run wide open downfield was maddening and leads to a bunch of points there. And all of a sudden it gets close and it's pucker time. And that wasn't cool. But it was the defense overall for the entire night played really well. First drive was a dumpster fire. They couldn't tackle. Then there was the McDougal whiff, basically, in the broken coverage.
Yeah.
And other than that, they played very well. They contained Dalvin Cook for the most part until he got hurt, and we'll get back to that here in a minute. They had Kirk Cousins flustered all night. I mean, I've heard so many talking heads over the course of the last 2 days talk about how great Kirk Cousins played. And I'm like, did you watch the game?
Wait, like, in the game we just watched, they said he played great?
There was a point in the third quarter, I believe it was, the announcer said that was the first ball he's completed over 5 yards, and he had like 13 completions.
I was going to say, the first drive for the Vikings where the Seahawks, missing tackles all over the place. KJ Wright misses what would have been a 1 or 2 yard stop on CJ Ham.
That was maddening.
And he goes for 38 yards. There's like nobody within 40 yards, apparently beyond KJ Wright missing that tackle. And so he rumbles down the field. And then there was the handoff to Diggs, which he made a bunch of dudes miss on the jet sweep. So there were the two big plays, and one of them was just a short completion by Cousins. The other one was a handoff by Cousins. And then the only points that the Vikings had between that Dalvin Cook 2-yard touchdown was that tipped pass that Russell Wilson tipped back up in the air for Anthony Harris to intercept, take it in from 20 yards out. And the Vikings didn't score until the other pass we just mentioned, where Treadwell was wide open in the secondary.
Correct. And it felt like the entire game that the defense had Cousins' number, and especially as the game started to wear on, I don't know if you noticed how the pass rush had really affected him. How many did he just kind of throw up in the air and get lucky on? I mean, that completion to Kyle Rudolph on the sideline that he sticks with one hand, that was a throwaway and got dead ass lucky. Like and there was multiple times where he was hit, or even the play where he is clearly fumbles the ball when his arm is hit.
Yeah.
And it's called that way on the field, and then somehow is overturned on replay. Like that one was, I can't explain that one for the life of me.
No, because even in the replay, you see that his arm is hit before it starts moving forward. And the ball doesn't come all the way loose until his arm is moving forward. I was under the assumption that when your arm was hit, that was the point and when the fumble begins.
Well, when the ball wiggles, when it looks to be breaking free, and that's when he's got it cocked all the way back, and it starts to jiggle in his hand, and somehow the referees overturn that. And
it didn't really matter because it was fourth down anyway, but still, it was just the point of the refs were at a weird spot in this game because they did allow these guys to play, but then maybe that was a good thing because when they did make decisions, like on Diggs reaching out for the first down and clearly not having a first down, Pete Carroll challenges that call. There was another call, the DK Metcalf fumble that they said was an incomplete pass initially, so they had to go back and review it. So it was just all night. It seemed like even on the calls that they were making, it was they were overturning them at will.
Yeah, which was very odd. I mean, so the fumble by Cousins, right? Or the non-fumble, I guess, however you want to look at it.
But the other ones that got right. So it's weird.
That one was perplexing to me only because there wasn't clear in, motivate. Right. What is the
clear and obvious evidence?
Clear and obvious evidence that it should be overturned.
Yeah.
That wasn't there. I mean, if anything, you were like they should come out and say the ruling on the field stands, not confirmed. Like that's how the rules are supposed to work. And then as far as the Metcalf play goes on the fumble, do I think they probably got it right? Yeah. Have I seen it called the other way a bunch of times? Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I don't even know what a catch is anymore. I don't know what pass interference is anymore.
I feel better about a catch after this year. Pass interference, yeah. Especially in this game where the only pass interference that I remember being called was the one down the sideline to Diggs late in the game where Diggs does that move where he stops And because Flowers is in the trailing position, not looking back for the ball, he just runs into Diggs, and then it initiates the contact. He gets the call. Tyler Lockett did it so many times last year. He was good at getting those. And Diggs picks one up there, too, with that. So,
yeah. And that, I think,
there were other ones where they didn't call.
Yeah. That one seemed to be the correct call. The one there on, it was Flowers, right?
Yeah.
And that's the way I've been accustomed to pass interference being called. But I guess if you take the officiating crew from Niners Ravens, that could either be pass interference or not pass interference, just given on a whim.
Depending on who's playing defense.
Yeah.
Because the 49ers, if we're going to jump to that game real quick, just because it does speak to the officiating discrepancies, especially with regard to pass interference, the 49ers allowed to be extremely physical. The Ravens, every time they seemed to touch a dude, it was called pass interference.
Right. There was a pass interference call on Marlon Humphrey where he shadows the receiver, and yes, he's behind him, but he kind of puts his arms out over the receiver, doesn't really touch him, doesn't impede his arms getting to the ball, doesn't impede his progress, doesn't do anything, like basically breathes on him. It's beautiful coverage. I mean, I don't know what else you're supposed to do as a defender. Pass interference.
Yeah.
And then later in the game, I think it was Kittle goes up for a ball, and the Ravens tight end goes up for Andrews, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And dude gets just tagged in the back by a 49ers defender helmet to helmet. And that's fine. That's fine. And I don't understand it. And we saw that show up in this game too. Just the inconsistency is maddening.
Well, I know if you talk to any Vikings fans, they would have liked to have seen a pass interference penalty called on this play.
Cousins drops back, throws near side. Ball is intercepted. Trey Flowers on the near side. Picks it off at the 25. He went right over Stephon Diggs, intercepted. Diggs is complaining to Bobby Wagner, who won't hear of it. And Trey Flowers right on the play with his third interception of the season. What a play by Trey. Now let's make sure he had both feet in bounds when he picked off the pass. What a way to start the fourth quarter for Seattle. We talk about takeaways coming in bunches. The ball bounced off of Diggs' hands and right into the hands of Flowers. That's the second Vikings turnover. And the Seahawks hope to make them pay here, already leading 27-17.
Yeah, and you really felt like the game was turning there, that it was going to be a rout. We weren't going to see one of these stupid 7-point wins again that, is a nail biter that gives you a heart attack. But great play by Flowers. No way in the world that's pass interference. That is just great coverage. And on top of that, like if Viking fans want to whine about non-calls, like there was a clear false start on Dwayne Brown late in the game. One of those drives to try to seal it. That was pretty egregious that got missed. And I'd give him that one. But this one, that was a great play by Flowers.
Yeah. Penalties on the night for both teams. Just the one penalty for the Seahawks on that pass interference penalty versus Diggs on Flowers, the one that was 30 yards down the field, and 3 penalties on the Vikings for 30 yards. So both teams penalized 30 yards in this game. And, if we were going to go for non-calls too, if that would have been a penalty on Flowers going over the top and going for the ball and actually getting it, then Tyler Lockett at the goal line, Russell Wilson threw to him that one low pass, and the Harrison Smith came over the back of Lockett
and timed it up perfect. That was a great defensive play by Harrison Smith.
Yeah.
I would never complain about that call. Let's go through the course of the game a little bit. I mean, just kind of the game starts out, Vikings score early, Seahawks come back, score, and then Russ has that wonky interception, and we go into half down. How did you feel at that point?
When it hit halftime, I saw a team that was the dominant team, and it was the Seahawks.
Yeah, it certainly felt that way to me, and it was a result of a couple things. Number one, they cleaned up their tackling after that first drive. The secondary was holding everything. You could tell what the game plan was. You're not going to beat us deep with nothing, and we're going to stuff the hell out of the run, and good luck with that. Basically, it worked really well, except for a couple screen plays. That was the one thing that they were able to get on us pretty consistently.
Yeah.
But you could tell Cousins was just lollipopping the thing everywhere and was just, hitting 5-yard shots here and there and like, ooh, congratulations. And you could see on the other side of the ball, the offensive line really start to enforce their will on the third amazing defensive front that they've seen in as many games. And they really did just start to, plow the road for whether it was Carson or Penny. Both guys had great games, and it was fun to watch the fruition of the 1-2 combo that I think Pete Carroll has always envisioned.
That really was the story of this game, was the Seahawks' ability to run the ball on the Vikings' defensive front. They were pretty much on defense setting up, daring the Seahawks to run. They weren't going to allow Russell Wilson to beat them deep. So Russ said, okay, I'm going to hand it off to my guys. We saw Chris Carson with a 1-yard walk-in score in the first half. And then the Seahawks on their first possession of the second half finish off a drive again with a walk-in touchdown. But this time, Rashad Penny.
Penny stays in. Now he shifts over. Now there's a quick toss to him left side. He turns upfield. He stumbles, but he's in. Touchdown, Seahawks. The Seahawks lined up 2 wide receivers and a tight wing on the left. Everybody got a block, and Penny knifes in from 2 yards out, make it 1.5 yards for a touchdown, and the Hawks are a point away from tying it up.
Now, was that the drive that Chris Carson called himself out of the game?
Tapped himself out, yeah, toward the end, because he had the big run that led up to that touchdown. I think he had like a 25-yard run to get him down inside the 10-yard line, and then tapped himself out so Penny could get the touchdown. Carson already having the touchdown in the first quarter.
Yeah, and that was a cool story to read later on here this week, and I think that helps to bring all of us little flockers together on the Carson Penny debate, because we're more divided on it than even Carson or Penny.
Right.
So maybe we should be cooler about it. But this is, I think, the perfect balance of the two guys, right? I would like to see a little bit more of Carson and a little bit of his thumping style. I think that really did help impose the Seahawks' will on the Vikings. And then you hit him with Penny, who, again, has better lateral speed and long speed, but give Penny some credit in this game. He did run really hard on a few runs inside, and it was just cool to watch. And man, if they can do that against a front like the Vikings, who's a top 5 run defense,
yeah,
you think you can pretty much do that on anybody, especially when you did it against the Niners, who is supposedly the best, and then the Eagles, who are loaded up front too. So I just feel like this team is finding the style that I was told they were going to play with at the beginning of the year. I heard Mark Schlereth talk about it on Colin Cowherd's show. He's like, they come out there and they bludgeon you. That's what I want, and we're doing it.
Chris Carson, 23 attempts, 102 yards. He had that long 25-yard run. Rashad Penny, 15 attempts, 74 yards. So just 8 fewer, but these guys pounding the football. And we even got to see Travis Homer with a carry late in the game on a trick play by the special teams.
So Michael Dixon on to punt. Hughes is deep for Minnesota. Fake punt. It's coming near side. Running the football. He's down inside Minnesota territory. It was Travis Homer. A fake punt. Michael Dixon ran like he was going to chase a bad snap. It was a direct snap to the upback, Travis Homer, who goes 29 yards before he's knocked out of bounds on the near sidelines. You get one chance a season to run one of those. And what a great choice by the Seahawks. Perfect blocking. And Homer, wow, he accelerates up the field all the way into Minnesota territory at the 39.
Yep, one chance a season to run one of those, and then we didn't cash it in.
Well, they had the opportunity to cash it in, but it was that drive where DK Metcalf, he gets hit just perfectly and puts the ball on the ground. Fortunately, it wasn't one of those ones where it gets returned, which could have been devastating for the Seahawks in that moment, like it was devastating for the team against the Ravens. And they just, again, can we just go one game without a fumble? I know the defense did a good job getting fumbles from the other team, but can we just get through a game without the fumbles?
Yeah, that would be fabulous. Now, it's really hard to blame DK on that one. I mean, it was a great hit with the shoulder pad, dead nuts on the ball.
And it keeps happening. Why do they just keep getting these perfect hits in the most opportune times? While we're having fumble luck on the other side of the ball, we're having bad fumble luck with our offensive guys.
Do you feel like that it's a little bit of the league as a whole? I mean, we talked about this a little bit last year during that Chiefs-Rams Monday night game that turned out to be like 742 points to 745. And I was like, there is no defense. The only defense there is creating turnovers because of the way the rules are. And I think that is very much the case in today's NFL. And so your only hope on defense for the most part is to create turnovers. So I think that's what you concentrate on as a coaching staff during the week and in practice is creating turnovers. And I think other teams are falling in line with that as well. And so you're just seeing more fumbles.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to force an interception, right? Like you can disguise coverage and maybe trick a guy and that sort of thing. But really where you can force a turnover is with the fumbles. And I think that's why you're seeing it being a little more prevalent, I believe, all around the NFL. I haven't seen the stats, but like just by my gut from watching the games, I would think that it's more prevalent throughout the league.
Yeah, everybody seems to be practicing the peanut punch. Everybody's trying to get their shoulder or their helmet on the football because that's what's going to knock it loose. And yeah, I guess when you practice those things, you're going to get better at it. And these are professional football players. So
and how many times in any game that you watch now, you see a guy out in space catch a swing pass, right? And the linebacker runs up. Most of them don't just lay the wood and lay the dude out.
Yeah.
Usually they try to tackle him by the football to start with. And if that doesn't work and they can't rip it out of their arms, then they go down to the legs. That's how guys are playing. That's how guys are playing now.
Well, and going back to the 49ers-Ravens game, there was another play, like when Jaquiski Tartt took it off of DK Metcalf going toward the end zone. There was another play where I think it was Lamar where he was running with it, and the dude just rips it out of Lamar's hands and turns over the football.
Right. So, yeah, I think it's something that the league is focusing on, and I think it is the way that you play defense in a league where you can't touch anybody.
Yeah, especially in terms of worrying about pass interference.
Pass interference or, targeting it to the head or hitting a defenseless receiver or, calling their grandmother the wrong name. Like there's a million ways to get a 15-yard penalty as a defender anymore.
Well, one player who was stripping the football out, Rasheem Green, gets it away from Dalvin Cook, helps turn it over. Bradley McDougald with the recovery.
Now motion across the formation is Johnson. The turn in hand to Dalvin Cook. He fumbles the football. The Seahawks come up with it. McDougald recovers at the 27-yard line. Dalvin Cook put it on the ground. Bradley McDougald rolled over and said, look what I found. And the Seahawks in great position. And there are two Vikings down on the field. But the Seahawks defense racing off the field with the football. It was Rasheem Green getting his arm in there and knocking that ball loose. And McDougald rolled up on it. Seahawks in position to take a lead here.
Steve Rabel, Seahawks Radio Network on the calls. And Rasheem Green only on the field for 11 or 12 snaps in this game, but making his presence known for sure.
He has the last two games.
Yeah.
And that's great. I mean, third round pick or second round pick?
Third round.
Okay. A guy that you had some hopes for. I actually had pretty high hopes for. And you're seeing some of these guys that they took 2 years ago start to pay off, and even the rookie class this year doing very well. Not to mention the free agents they brought in this year, the late additions. I mean, we all know about Clowney, but Diggs was great in this game too. And he laid the wood to one of the receivers about midway through the game. And it felt like it changed the way that they were playing offense. Like that was one of those Cam type of hits that puts the fear of God into the rest of the receiving core.
Yeah, Cousins dumps it off to Irv Smith just in the flat there.
He's a big dude.
He was, a big rookie tight end out of Alabama. And he kind of does a little dance with KJ Wright. And KJ's just kind of saying, okay, wherever you move, I'm going to go too. And then just out from the side, Diggs comes roaring in and just lays the dude out. It was, hearing Pete Carroll talk about it after the game, he said it was one of his favorite plays of the night.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite plays of the night as well. And this was a game that when I was watching it, nobody played great. Everybody played pretty good.
Yeah.
And when everybody plays just pretty good, they're 2 to 3 scores better than, the Vikings. And they should be a pretty decent team, the Vikings. I mean, they're in the hunt for their division. I mean, they're not leading it like the way that we're leading the NFC West now. But, they're still a decent team.
Yeah, well, if they don't lose that stinker to the Bears early on in the season, if they don't lose that close game to the Packers, then they probably are leading their division. And unfortunately for them, they had a little bit tougher schedule down the road than the Packers do. So Packers probably going to come out with the division title, and Minnesota's going to have to settle for that 6th seed.
Yeah, and then I've heard some of the Minnesota whining, oh, well, Diggs got hurt. Well, yeah, he came right back. Oh, well, Cook got hurt. Yeah, he did. But the game was you could already feel the game changing in the direction of the Seahawks.
Oh, that was the third quarter. They had plenty of time to get Cook going. And He had 9 rushes, 29 yards. He had the 1 touchdown. But his longest run to that point was 9 yards. And they were holding him to, what is that? Under 3 yards per carry.
Right. They had done a good job against him. It wasn't like, Cook was lighting up the league in that game like he had for the entire year. This team is great against the run. And when you have a quarterback like Cousins who can't really push the ball down the field, and, we're missing Thielen. Okay, cool. How many more excuses do you want? Tyler Lockett had the flu and about lost his leg over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
All right. And we were still fine. So, what? I'm tired of the excuses.
Oh, you hear it from Vikings fans. You hear it from 49ers fans. They're still whining about the fact that all their dudes were injured in the game against Seattle. And
all their dudes, you mean George Kittle?
Right. Yeah. Well, and Emmanuel Sanders.
Okay, fine. I mean, he's a side piece. But every time I hear a Niner go out for a while, at first it was Juszczyk, right?
Yeah.
And, the entire 49ers offense revolves around Juszczyk. I mean, he's the lead blocker in their dynamic running scheme, and he's good out of the backfield. And, he's not even a position player. I mean, you can't even call him anything. He's an offensive weapon, an OW. That's it. The whole offense runs through him until George Kittle goes out. And now, the whole offense runs through George Kittle. He's he's the straw that stirs the drink. I mean, he is a great blocker up front. He has uncanny speed as a tight end. I mean, the offense can't even operate without George Kittle. Well, which guy is it? Okay, Niner whiner.
I think if they're going to settle on one, they should settle on Kittle because he seems like the one.
I know, but you get what I'm saying.
I understand. That they changed their mind to suit however they're playing.
Yeah. So, boo-hoo, you're not in first anymore. You're back in second where you belong. That was a nice little short-lived ride that you guys had, and that was fun. Enjoy your loss to the Saints next week.
Yeah.
And we probably won't see you again past week 17.
Yeah, hopefully for their sake, that game actually matters, and because that could be a pretty fun game if that game hinges on one team getting home field advantage throughout the playoffs, and the loser getting the 5th seed and having to go on and get a first round easy win against the NFC East opponent, whether it's the Eagles or Cowboys. That's a big swing.
After next week, I'll be able to tell you if that game is going to matter for the Niners or not.
Okay.
Because depending on the results of Niners Saints, which either way, that's a win. For us.
Yeah.
So that's fine. Finally, a game that can do nothing but go well for us.
Right.
That feels good. And then we have the Rams at home.
Yeah.
And, you take care of business against the Rams, which you should undoubtedly do at this point. And I think they will. And we'll talk a little Rams preview here in a minute. But you win that game against the Rams. That leaves you Panthers, Cards, Niners.
Right.
I feel pretty good about our chances against Panthers and the Cards. And then at that point, I mean, the Niners could easily have lost 2 or 3 more games.
They got to play the Rams. That game could be tough. They have to play. Obviously, the Saints game is going to be tough for them. When you're talking about the 49ers and guys who are the straws that stir the drink for the 49ers, we haven't even really gotten, apart from the one negative play by Russell Wilson, we haven't gotten to the guy that stirs the drink for the Seattle Seahawks, and it's Russell Wilson, 21 of 31, 240 yards, 2 touchdowns on the night, sacked just twice. One of those sacks was when Dwayne Brown didn't get a hands to the face call and complaining to the officials. He's still able to block the dude, and the guy just, I don't know.
Russ ran into him.
Well, the dude, barely clips Russ's foot, and Russell goes down on that play. He had a couple other guys coming from the other side, too, but holding onto the ball way too long. And it kind of a frustrating play because, the moment of trying to go out and close the game. But Russell Wilson, he gets it done in this game again with nearly 100 quarterback rating. If he doesn't throw that pick, he's having another amazing day for the Seahawks.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I said it earlier, nobody played amazing in this game. Like, this wasn't one of those,
very
oh my
good.
God.
I know, I'm sorry. I used the wrong word. I said amazing. I meant very good.
Yeah, I mean, he had a pretty damn good day. And that cool. And that's all you need, man. Like, if that's a quote bad game from your quarterback, I like your quarterback. So it's working out wonderfully. Now, the one thing that was tough for him throughout the game were passes over 20 yards or more. It's been kind of a struggle the last two games, and I would attribute that in Philadelphia to the weather. And in this game, it was total game plan by the Vikings. They were not going to give up anything deep.
Yeah.
And, Tyler Lockett basically might have been puking in between plays for all I know. I mean, he's your number one deep threat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that they didn't have a lot of success down the field, but Russ said, okay, that's what you're doing. I'm going to check to a bunch of run plays. I'm going to cram it down your throat, and I'll take all the short passes. I don't know how you felt about the offensive game plan throughout the day, but I freaking loved it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, think about when they got down on the goal line a couple of times. Guess what we didn't do?
Yeah, they didn't get cute with the play calling, and they opened
throw
up
some stupid rinky-dink pass.
Yeah, and they opened up gigantic holes that Carson and Penny were able to run through and essentially get in untouched. And I mean, we haven't even talked about some of these other passes, like the sexy deep ball to a wide open David Moore.
Penny in the backfield. Metcalf, far side wide. Russell's got time. He's got David Moore wide open.
Hey, I'm Russell Wilson, and I throw a sexy deep ball.
Moore makes the catch. 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Seahawks. From 60 yards, Russ looked up, saw David Moore running right past Xavier Rhodes, and said, here you go. Serves it up on a platter, and the Seahawks are on top 26-17, and they're doing the hula in the end zone, the Seahawks receivers. Wow, what a big play for Seattle.
The hula? I think
so. Yeah, so Rabel needs some help in that department. I needed help in that department. So I asked the girlfriend, I was like, so what is this dance? And she was walking out of the room as they scored. And then I was like, no, get back here. What is this? And she watched it for a couple seconds, and apparently it was New Edition.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is, but cool.
See, I'm not a New Edition fan, but I'm a Belle Biv DeVoe fan. So if you're familiar with Belle Biv DeVoe, if you're familiar with Bobby Brown, that was New Edition before they went separate ways.
Isn't Bobby Brown the guy who killed Whitney Houston?
I don't think that
with the cocaine. Yeah.
That's Bobby Brown.
Yeah. Okay, that's where I knew him from. Okay. Exactly. Whitney Houston's murderer. So that's right. But yes, apparently the
allegedly we have another murderer to talk about later on this show, Adam.
Allegedly, she's dead. There's no alleged.
I know, but I don't think he was actually responsible for her death.
Yeah, I think he was
legally responsible.
Well, maybe not legally, but he ought to have been legally responsible. But apparently, it was a very well done rendition of the New Edition, according to the girlfriend. She was really impressed by the spin at the end. So Seahawks really killing it this year in end zone celebrations, much as they did last year. I don't know who their choreographer is, but they deserve a raise.
Yeah, they crushed that one, and the timing on it was perfect. I think that's got to be better than what we saw from them last year. That they ended up winning the celebration of the year for.
I don't know. I think I liked the one last year a little better. I like the whole thing where they parted the seas and Drawn Bound kind of came stomping through.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That was a little cooler, but it was up there. Now, as far as the play, cool. The Xavier Rhodes decided to stop playing defense on that play, and I think I could have completed that pass.
What was he complaining about? Who was he trying to pin that on?
He thought Harrison Smith was going to be his help over the top. Now, whether
Harrison Smith was blitzing.
That's what I'm saying. Either they weren't on the same page on the play call or what it was, but he legit thought that Harrison Smith was going to be there, right or wrong. I'm just telling you what he was thinking.
That seemed to be what he was lobbying for on the sideline, but I don't think anybody was really hearing it at that moment.
My guess is that he heard the play call wrong.
Well, that could be too. So
Harrison Smith blitzes. He thinks he has help over the top. He doesn't. And, David Moore, the whipping boy from the Seahawks Ring of Honor Slack group for the majority of the beginning of the game,
because he was making up for the touchdown that he missed when he was on that he was in the end zone and Russ puts it on the money to where only he can catch it, and Moore reaches out with like the baby T-Rex arms and can't haul it in.
Okay, that was a really difficult catch. Number one, like he's concentrating on his feet and everything because he's already
there was a defender right there too.
But in your defense and everybody else's, to not even get a finger on it, like that was the part I was like, oh, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah, I'm not gonna crush him on it. I'm sure that maybe we are talking about that particular play if the Seahawks lose this game to the Vikings. Another thing that we're probably talking about is just the whole idea in general that the Vikings did a good job with the Seahawks inside the red zone. They have to kick 2 Jason Myers field goals that are 29 yards. So that's something that you don't want to see a team have to do. And then I guess the other red zone opportunity they missed was right at the end of the game. So that's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, one thing I'm not going to catfish about in this podcast is a lack of points. You score 37, you ought to win. I'm not mad about that. Offense played well. I like the style. I like the play calls. Short of not really connecting on many deep shots. I mean, obviously the one to Moore, but that really wasn't there all game. I loved it. And it was a game that when we played the 49ers, I was in a hotel room and I'm like standing on a chair at one point, like lying on the floor at another point, right? Uh-huh. Like just the ups and downs. This game, I was on the couch pretty much the entire time. Didn't really raise my voice much one way or the other. It just felt like that we were in control from the word jump. I didn't fear Kirk Cousins for a second. And I felt like it was going to be a win. And we were going to be first place in the NFC West, which we are. And we get to continue to push towards that NFC West crown coming up against the Rams here.
Sunday night football versus the 7-5 LA Rams. The Rams are 3-3 at quote unquote home in LA. And with a win over the Rams, Adam, the Seahawks, they're locked in. They clinch a playoff berth with a win.
They do. And it'd be cool just to know that we're in the big dance no matter what. I mean, even though it feels like with the remaining schedule, like that's not going to be the most impossible task. But hey, I would love to lock it up at that point as far as a playoff berth. I would love to put the pressure on the Niners and put them basically what would amount to 2 games back if they lose to the Saints and we can beat the Rams.
Hey, we're going to know by game time what the status is. Once again, we got to watch the 49ers lose to the Ravens and then know going into this game on Monday night that a win puts you into the division lead. And now if we're going to get a chance to see them play the Saints and then watch the Sunday night game.
Yeah. I think it is entirely possible that the Niners beat the Saints. I think that's in range, but
it is on the road in New Orleans.
Should be another great game. I mean, that Baltimore Niners game was a great game.
And did I hear that the 49ers, quote unquote, stayed on the East Coast for this game against the Saints? What kind of crap is that? It's in Louisiana. San Francisco to Louisiana is such a far trip that you're going to stay on the East Coast.
Well, not only that, but I mean, I'm not a geography major or anything like that, but I've been to Louisiana a time or two. Guess where Louisiana ain't?
It's not on the East Coast.
No, it's like dead nuts middle of the country. It's like at the mouth of the river that divides the country literally in half. Okay? So, yeah,
it's not that far of a trip. Why do you have to? I would be livid if I were a 49ers player that I had to spend the entire week away from home because we didn't want to travel and have to change time zones again the following week.
Yeah, it is weak sauce. Now, here's the thing. I have stayed in Louisiana for a week because my job is much like an NFL player in which I play on the weekends.
Right.
Like, so for example, just a few weeks ago, like I stayed for the entire week not to travel back and forth. But whether to travel or to not travel, I think it's all about the same.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they save a couple bucks that way. I don't know. But I mean, to put it in terms as if it would be too much of a burden
That's
for
weird.
the poor Niners to have to travel across the country. Like, I mean, is there a team with more excuses?
It's probably too cold in Northern California right now, so they wanted to go and stay where it was warm for a week down south. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, that's fine. Let them boys hang out on Bourbon Street for a week. That sounds great.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll work out fine.
I want George Kittle out on Bourbon Street every single night. Maybe somebody will clang him in the head with a booze bottle in a bag.
Oh, geez. Hey, you don't want that, but we know that it can happen.
I'm just saying it's something in the realm of possibility on Bourbon Street.
Well, getting back to the game coming up against the LA Rams,
it's funny how we keep bumping off the Rams to talk about the Niners because that's how little the Rams matter now.
Well, this game matters, Adam. This is an important game for Coach Pete Carroll. The next win will be Pete Carroll's 100th regular season win for the Seahawks. They're 3-0 in primetime so far this season. They can continue that record, and they have a chance to go 7-0 on the road. They've never won 7 road games in franchise history.
That might be the one thing that gives me pause, is just the idea of how hard it is to go 7-0 on the road, let alone 8-0.
Yeah.
I mean, you're bound to have a clunker. But with that said, I'm looking at this game and just right now, the biggest difference to me is our defensive line versus their offensive line. And I don't think their offensive line has any sort of chance. And at that point, Gurley can't get going. You disrupt the timing for Goff just a little bit. This generation's Joe Flacco. If he doesn't have everything, in rhythm and on time, he's a dumpster fire. You should be able to bottle up this offense pretty freaking easily.
But we did see with the Cardinals game this last weekend what Jared Goff is capable when he does get protection from his offensive line. Now,
sure,
very different defenses. It looked like the Cardinals didn't even want to be there at that game. They came out unprepared, and the Rams just ran up and down the field on them. So that goes to show that you can't take this game lightly, because the Rams still have that opportunity to put up big points when you don't take them seriously.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. If there's any team in the league that I feel pretty comfortable with in regards to getting up for every game and not having letdown games, it's the Seattle Seahawks and their mentality of every day is a championship day. I heard Brandon Marshall talking about that yesterday on First Things First with Nick Wright, and he's like, you guys all forget I played there last year. Let me tell you about the way these guys are.
Yeah.
And another thing about the Seahawks is their propensity to go ahead and play their best ball in the fourth quarter of the season, because you can only win anything in the fourth quarter. Right. Like, that's the only way that we can do things. So I love the idea that this team is starting to round into its best version of itself, and the Rams are in a bit of disarray. And I believe that this is a game that the Seahawks should be able to handle pretty well. I mean, if I'm looking at the Rams and trying to slot them in regarding where they rank among the last 3 teams that we played, I'd probably go Niners, Vikings, Rams, Eagles. And Rams, Eagles, like, flip a coin.
Well, one difference for the Rams in this game that the Seahawks didn't have to face, they now have Jalen Ramsey.
So, cool. Just don't throw at him, especially with Tyler Lockett being not 100%. Ramsey will probably follow him everywhere on the field.
Yeah.
Everybody else at that point is totally gettable. I mean, I don't worry about anybody in that secondary. And we watch the Ravens take and just cram it down their throats. And at that point, the second you out physical that defense, they fold. I mean, you heard Eric Weddle. He's just like, I don't know. I don't even know where the ball's going.
That was my favorite quote by Weddle. Him admitting that he didn't even know where the ball was going to be. Right.
And I love that idea. And even if he did know where the ball was going, I don't think they had the cojones to stop it. I mean, they got pushed all over the field. And I think, Dwayne Brown, Fluker, Ayupati and company, like, they'll do the same. I think the biggest problem that they'll have on that offensive line is being sure that they double team Donald and give Joey Hunt help every single play. Yeah. Do that, and you're going to be fine. Let the Brockers of the world try to beat you. Good luck with that.
And that does seem to be the right approach in terms of the Seahawks on the offensive line because, Aaron Donald has the ability to take over games and really wreck them. We saw in the last game with the Rams, I think I joked after that game that the favorite play by the Seahawks offense against the Rams was Russell Wilson dropping back and making one of the dudes that was running free out of miss and then throw the ball down the field. I don't
Isn't that called the scribble play?
It wasn't necessarily a scribble play because he wasn't running around in circles. It was just he was hanging in the pocket and dodging a guy and then delivering down the field.
Isn't that an amazing difference in Russell Wilson's game this year?
Oh, it's incredible.
Do you notice the difference? Because I certainly have. I don't know if anybody else has.
Yeah. I have. You and I, we watch him every single week and try and...
Yeah.
And we started to see the transition from that last year under Brian Schottenheimer, and I think it really seems to be that kind of focus, that whether or not it's a focus that Schottenheimer's putting on Russell Wilson to try and do, or whether Russell Wilson, just as a veteran of the game, knows that he needs to do that to be successful, or a combination of both, but it's now happening. We're seeing that transition come through even more in Schottenheimer's second year as the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I will definitely go with a combination of both there, and you notice the way that Russ moves. It's much more like Brady in the pocket in the sense of not massive athletic plays per se, but he's obviously more athletic than Brady.
Oh, yeah. You could compare it to Aaron Rodgers.
Well, and it's even less scribble play than Rodgers is right now. Like, a slide to the left, a slide to the right, one little juke, climb the pocket, and then fire it down. I mean, Rodgers is, as I think about it, yeah, I think you're right. That's probably a better comp rather than constantly bailing further and further back.
Right.
And you saw him do it once against a Viking, and it cost us a big sack.
Yeah, it took you back to those 2013, 2014 years.
Right. But so it's still there, and he'll still do it now and then, but his pocket presence has gotten much better. Not that it was terrible before, but he's changed his style a little bit, and it's made him more dangerous. I mean, to the point to where he had probably, arguably, his statistically best year last year, and this year is better. Like, I mean, he's an MVP candidate.
Yeah, it's kind of wild to look at these head-to-head comparison stats, because I look at this and I see total offense with the NFL rank number 3, rush offense ranked number 3, points per game number 5, and going into a game against the Rams, that was well, they were more up toward number 1 and 2 in a lot of those categories last year. But comparing that to what the Rams have now, 10th in total offense in the NFL, 25th in the rush with Todd Gurley, and 12th in the league in points per game.
Yeah, so they're not the same as they were. And part of that, I mean, we've talked about it. I mean, the league's figured it out.
The league's figured it out in a sense, but they have had the struggles on the offensive line. That's a huge difference in that you give Jared Goff time. He's able to throw downfield. If he doesn't have time, he's totally neutralized.
And isn't it just mind-blowing to you? Because we both talked about this throughout the offseason when all the pundits are predicting like what's going to happen in the NFC West. And everybody's saying like, man, if I had a nickel for every time Bill Simmons talked about how the Rams were going to be amazing this coming year and blah, 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 blah. And I'd be like, and you too. Well, you realize they lost the majority of their offensive line, and like their one last good dude is 97 years old now. You don't see that as a problem? Like, you don't think that's going to affect this? Like, I mean, that's the biggest difference, even more so than the league figuring out McVay to a degree.
I mean, you could see it coming because Roger Saffold goes away in free agency. Didn't their center retire?
Yeah.
So you're missing 2 big pieces.
You lose Roger Saffold, your best offensive lineman. You could argue one way or another, whether it's Whitworth or him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Saffold goes, you lose your other guard, and everything's going to be just fine, huh?
Yeah. How did they decide? I mean, I know they decided that they needed to pay Todd Gurley, that they needed to pay Jared Goff the contract that he did. But how do you not keep Saffold? That makes, I think, a huge difference going into this year. Yeah, you still have to try and find a center, and then they're dealing with center injuries at this point of the season too. So they have had the struggles there. But how do you not have that foresight, as the GM of that team to say, we really need to invest in guys up front to keep Jared Goff upright?
So it's funny to me that you bring that up because If you're a Rams fan right now, or even the coaching staff, if I filled you full of truth serum right now and I said, would you rather have Roger Saffold for the next 4 years for $22 million guaranteed, or would you rather have Eric Weddle and Clay Matthews for close to the same amount of guaranteed money?
Yeah.
Which would you choose?
I mean, that's a no-brainer. I mean, I was looking at guys like Brandon Cooks at $15 million, Dante Fowler at $12 million, Michael Brockers at $11 million, but pass rushers, that's an important thing to have. But yeah, Clay Matthews and Eric Weddle.
Yeah. I mean, I know the math doesn't, work out exactly, but like, you don't sign those two guys, maybe, there's a lot of little things that you can do, and now you have Saffold.
Right.
I think that makes a gigantic difference in their season. That's probably a 2 to 3 win difference. And, let's be fair to Weddle and Matthews. They're washed up and they're terrible, and they haven't made a difference at all for the Rams.
And that's being fair.
That's being fair. I mean, I'm not even saying dumpster fire or anything like that. They're just awful.
It's this kind of talk going into a game against the Rams, Adam, that I feel like it could backfire.
Yeah, I know you feel that way, but it won't.
Well, you talked about Jalen Ramsey covering Tyler Lockett, and I would actually kind of like to see that happen because I like the season that DK Metcalf is having. Yeah, he had the drop in the last game, but he was 7-6. He was over 70 yards. He's sitting at 705 yards right now. It's kind of crazy that he could hit this milestone potentially in this game against the Rams. He needs just 84 yards to pass Doug Baldwin to be in second place for rookie receiving yards. 789 is what Baldwin had his rookie year.
Yeah, and that goes back to the discussion we had at the beginning of the year, DK Metcalf and the expectations that are upon him.
Oh yeah, he won't get to that number. Not likely.
Yeah, we both agreed it wasn't likely. We didn't say it wouldn't happen.
Yeah, we said it wasn't likely.
But if he did, that would be an amazing season for him.
Yeah.
And, I know people right now are a little down on DK because of a couple drops over the last couple games and 2 fumbles, right?
Yeah.
Pump the brakes. This is an amazing season from DK Metcalf. As a rookie, as a guy who had a lot to learn regarding polishing up his game to be a legit NFL receiver. Yeah. He really did. Had a lot of work to do.
All those criticisms about him were real.
Yes, they were real. But he also had things that he did well, and credit to the team for featuring those. And then also credit DK for putting in the work to continue to get better as a receiver. He had a couple nice little routes. He had a stopper out in this last game against the Vikings that was nifty. Like he literally changed direction pretty quick, and I was like, wait, I thought that there was no way in the world he could do that. And he is improving, and we are going to see throughout the course of his career some amazing catches. We're going to see him like bulldoze people like he did in this game and the Eagles game. Mm-hmm. And we're going to love those plays, and we're going to have to live with the occasional drop because he's not a great natural catcher. We're going to have to live with the occasional fumble because he tries to truck people like a fullback. Okay. Like those things are going to happen. Is it worth the trade-off for one of the best rookie impacts at the receiver position for the Seattle Seahawks ever? I'm going to go out on a limb and say yes.
I think it's pretty easy to say yes because he's having, when you're talking about already with Baldwin with the yards in the rookie season, and the guy ahead of him on that is Joey Galloway, who had an incredible career, not just with the Seahawks, but going and play for the Bucs. He had 1,039 yards his rookie season. Right now, Metcalf's on pace for 940, but he's also had 303 yards over the last 4 games. So if he can do that over the next 4 games, that puts him over 1,000 yards for the season. He's on pace for 7 touchdowns this year. Daryl Turner, as a Seahawks rookie receiver, had 10 touchdowns as a rookie. That's a record. And even another stat to put him in the category of Joey Galloway, if he gets 6 more receptions, it puts him over 50, and it qualifies him to take down Joey Galloway's rookie record of 15.5 yards per reception. Metcalf's at 16 right now.
Wow, that's actually really surprising because that was Joey Galloway's thing, right?
Yeah.
Being the deep threat, the guy that, really stretched the field. So, yeah, I mean, you're right for really enjoying the season that DK Metcalf has put up, and it's been awesome. Now, the question is, who's going to step up at that wide receiver 3 position in the slot and really, I mean, it doesn't even necessarily have to be in the slot because you can slide Lockett into the slot, but who's going to be that third guy that really steps up? And it seems like it should be Josh Gordon, but he's not getting many opportunities.
No, he just had the 1 3rd down catch against the Vikings. We see him.
No, he ran the Josh Gordon play. That's what we call that now in the huddle, right?
Right.
Oh, it's 3rd and, under 12. Okay. Josh Gordon, go out there, get in the slot and run a slant.
Yeah, that's the Gordon play.
That's the Gordon.
We only got to see it once, though. Apparently, you can only run that one time per game.
Once a game and on 3rd down, and that you don't even tell the other receivers what to do. They can just do whatever they want because we're just going to throw that.
Pete Carroll's very concerned about equity, it seems like, because to this point, he wanted to see so much from Rashad Penny before giving him a lot of carries, and it took him until this point in the season. He's talked about getting, some of the rookies on the field. It's taken Marquise Blair, even with the play of Tedrick Thompson, it took Marquise Blair half the season to be able to get on the field, and an injury to Tedrick Thompson to be able to get the playing time that he is. And then they brought in the veteran Diggs. And you see it with Cody Barton, an outstanding rookie preseason. And he looks very capable when he has been in there. He gets 3 snaps, I think, a few weeks ago, and he works into this game, subbing in for Michael Kendricks a little bit. So it seems like the way Pete Carroll treats snaps within a game as competition and really rewarding people who put in the work, it just makes me think that Gordon hasn't quite put in his time yet, and he's saving that. And we're seeing Jerron Brown, he get back on the field. He gets a pass thrown his way in this game. We've seen Malik Turner get a few, and David Moore in there and gets 4 targets in this last game.
I feel like they're saving it for week 17 and beyond.
I can see that too.
That's it. It's how it feels. And
maybe they have that luxury with guys like Malik Turner and Jerron Brown, veteran receivers. Malik Turner's not the veteran that Brown is, but Malik's been with the team for several years.
Right.
At least a few.
Yeah, at least a few. But, out of those 3 guys, right, Brown, Turner, and Gordon, Gordon's clearly the most talented of the 3.
And really the number 3 receiver right now is Jacob Hollister.
Yeah, true. A guy we haven't talked about at all.
No, kind of crazy considering the amount of touches that he saw against the Vikings and the week before against the Eagles. He's almost been the primary receiver these last couple weeks.
Yeah.
I guess Metcalf had the most catches this last week.
Yeah. He has definitely been a huge part of the offense and kind of stepped into the Will Disley role. And you saw Will was going to be a big part of this offense as well. And they want to make the tight end a featured part. That way you are more multiple. You go out there with 2 tight ends and they could be the receiving threat. They could be the guy that helps cram it down your throat. And Hollister had a couple nice blocks, despite his reputation in this Vikings game. He had
he's small. He's not a big dude.
Not a big dude, but has filled in nicely. And is Luke Wilson ever coming back?
Gosh.
Did they exile him to Canada?
I thought he was Wolverine. Where's the Wolverine recovery? This must be a legit injury.
Yeah. On the Pete Carroll scale of injuries. Yeah. Legit.
Super legit.
All right. One last thing, and then maybe we'll bomb on to the second half of the show here. Okay. But how concerned are you over this Clowney thing with the injury? I read today that he probably needs surgery and he's just going to play as long as he can. When do we just lose Clowney? And maybe do you just sit him against, maybe not the Rams, but, Cards and Carolina and save him for the playoffs? He seems legit fired up and excited to be a part of this culture and this team. And I know he wants to play through because he feels like he has a real shot at, maybe getting a chip.
The way they talk about it, when somebody needs surgery and it's kind of bad, it kind of takes me back to Richard Sherman with his Achilles, where, he was playing with a partially torn Achilles for so long and then it just goes. And I don't know how that works with this type of injury, but he's clearly dealing with something, as Pete Carroll would say, legit.
Yeah. For sure. And I guess, what is the regular recovery time of this sports hernia thing?
I think you have to get surgery.
Yeah, I know. But what's the usual recovery time? Is it 3 or 4 weeks?
That's a good question. I think it actually, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, let's see what the Google has to say. Okay, sports, hernia, blah, blah, blah. 3 to 6 weeks. So if Clowney really does need it.
With light resistance training and jogging in 3 weeks, not playing against playoff caliber football teams.
Yeah, light resistance training and that sort of thing for us mere mortals like me and you, us doughy middle-aged white dudes, okay?
Okay.
Like not super freak athlete Jadeveon Clowney, all right? Like, let's say it's 6 weeks. That's the long end of it. I mean, you play the Rams, he gets out of it okay. You go under the knife and hope you get that first round bye and like you're back by your first playoff game.
Okay, well, let's go back to Marshawn Lynch because this is where we had the experience with it.
Right.
One of the first times. And it was right around Thanksgiving that Marshawn Lynch had sports hernia surgery. And that was to kind of propel to hope that he would be available in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And, hearing from Pete Carroll around that time, he said they were optimistic about it being a quick recovery, being back in 3 or 4 weeks. So that was at Thanksgiving, and he didn't play in the Minnesota Vikings game.
Okay.
So we're past Thanksgiving now. If he were to have surgery, I mean, you're talking NFC Championship, Super Bowl at like the best possible return time.
You don't know crap. You're not a doctor. He could come back before that. Yeah, you're probably right. Might not be the best idea. Like, maybe just rest him, as much as you can. Especially if you can lock up that bye.
Yeah, I have a high tolerance for Jadeveon Clowney's pain, though. So if he could just go ahead and play through that through the rest of the season, then I'm all for it.
Dude, knowing that he's already done it for at least one game, I mean, if not two, I don't know how,
It was right at the
game.
end of the San Fran game, I think. So this was his first game, I think, playing through it with after having treatment a couple weeks ago.
And look good and like intends to keep playing through it. Like every game I get of JD going forward, I'm taking as a bonus game, and I appreciate his services, and I can't wait for him to sign a contract going forward.
And with that, let's get to the second half of the show. Getting into the second half of the show. Adam, I'm looking at some of the playoff odds, and I know we've kind of gotten into it in terms of, do we want San Francisco to win? Do we want the Saints to win? I think the answer is yes, because it doesn't matter. But I with the kind of debate going on around it, I think it comes down to, do you want the Seahawks to have a better shot at the first seed or a better shot at the division? And obviously, if the 49ers lose to the Saints, it means a better shot at the division.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a little bit, and I think it boils down to one fact for me, and this is unique to this team. Previous iterations of the Seahawks, I think this would be a very simple idea. I would like the Saints to lose. But since it's this team that plays so well on the road, I would rather that we win the division. That means we most likely have a bye and just have to play one less game.
Yeah.
Get one at home. And then by chance, if the last team standing is the Saints for the NFC Championship game, you have to go to New Orleans. I still like our odds. This is a team that doesn't much care where they play. So I think just having to play one less game in the playoffs, to me, is the more important of the two things.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. And I want the team to win the NFC West. And, looking at the percentages even, right now they're 99% to make the playoffs, which is an amazing spot. Because like you said, going on the road, if they do have to go on the road for the first round of the wild card, whether that's the Cowboys, whether it's the Eagles, I'm assuming it would be one of those two teams. It probably wouldn't be Green Bay. They'd have to drop all the way to the 6th seed. I just don't see that happening, especially with a win over the Vikings. It puts them in a good spot to go on the road and get a win. So I would rather not have to play either New Orleans or San Francisco in the divisional round because both those games are going to be tough. I was looking at the win percentages just because, San Francisco wins and Seahawks wins. Really, the percentages that they're at right now for the playoffs, 70% to win the division, 68% to get a first round bye, 12% to win the Super Bowl is where they're at right now.
So both teams share those odds? Is that the idea?
No, that's what the Seahawks odds are right now.
Okay.
But a San Francisco loss and a Seahawks win increases the Seattle winning the division and the first round bye to about 90%.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Because
right,
really,
so my gut was on track with the analytics here because it felt very likely that if we beat the Rams and the Niners lose, I mean, that's a de facto 2-game lead with 3 to play, that they would have a very high percentage shot of winning the division, which should put you in the 2 spot.
If Seattle can go 3-0 over the next 3 and San Francisco goes 1-2, then the Week 17 game doesn't matter.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be really nice.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's going to be the case. And I'm sure the NFL would love it if that game mattered and they would put that in a primetime spot, no doubt.
That game is going to matter and it's going to be in prime time. So,
yeah, I really want them to win the division because I was looking it up. Since 2002, the Cards, Rams, and Niners, that's the year that we entered the NFC West, right?
Right.
The Niners, Cardinals, and Rams have won the division a combined 9 times.
Okay.
If we won the division this year, that'd be 9 division titles since we showed up here. This is our division. The other 3 teams combined would be tied with us.
I love it.
Yeah, I like that thought.
Okay, we need that to happen. One other thing I would like to see happen, Ethan Posick could be back next week in time for the Carolina Panthers game.
I think that's great news. Just the idea of having him there just in case something would happen to Joey Hunt. I mean, that gives me a lot of... it just relaxes me. Yeah.
Well, because who do they have?
Puts me at ease. There's the word. I was looking for it. It was somewhere in there.
Because who do they... Jordan Roos is the backup center right now.
Yeah, no.
I mean, he is.
I know, but I don't need to see that. And, obviously, most likely you won't have to one way or the other. It's just one more thing. This team has a lot of depth.
So has Joey Hunt won you over? Do you think he keeps the center job when Ethan Posick comes back from injury?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You don't screw with that.
Oh, maybe you do.
I wouldn't. Hunt's been fine. I think the bigger question is next year, what do you do at center? Britt making the kind of money that he does compared to Joey Hunt?
Yeah, Britt's not coming back.
I don't know. Depends on the contract.
Russell does love Britt, though.
Look, those center guard positions, I mean, that's a place that you can spend some money, and not break the bank.
Yeah.
A top tier contract for a center isn't like a left tackle. It's not like a safety. It's not, you know what I mean? That's a place that you can, you can pay your long snapper pretty well because it doesn't cost you a damn thing.
Fetty is going to be the interesting question in the offseason.
Is that?
I think it is because continuity is important.
Yeah, no.
I feel like he's kind of getting to the point to where you don't have to worry about him necessarily. How many times have we worried about Fetty this year?
I still have my one FU Fetty like every game.
Every game?
Except for this last one.
Yeah.
Which was fluky.
He's improving, man.
Yeah, I think it's hard to
How do you
say that he's
justify
not.
paying $10 million plus, though, to a guy that you just don't want to have be noticeable?
You're just happy he doesn't screw up?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough.
It is tough.
But if anything about this year in football, which is something we've been harping on for years, has proven, is the idea that the interior play on both offense and defense is paramount. That's where you spend your money. Who gives a crap who the corner is for the most part? Like, we can draft a corner.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no biggie. We can pick some safety out of Oklahoma State and make him a pretty good corner.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas I think that's an area now that is a market deficiency. Whereas still on offensive or defensive line, like, that's a premium. I don't think you can spend too much there and quarterback, and the rest of it you can figure out.
Well, we got lots of time to talk roster construction after these next few games. We have a stretch run, 4 games left in the regular season, and then we got playoffs. And with a 99% chance that the Seahawks are going to be in the playoffs, it's looking pretty good. And another thing that's looking good, we got a new member of the flock this week.
Hey, all right.
Welcome to the flock to Delbert Linder, who came in via PayPal with 1212. Says, hey guys, 'tis the season for giving, and that means it's time for me to pony up. You guys have gotten me through and helped me keep my sanity on a lot of drives to and from work. Keep up the good work. Happy holidays and Happy New Year. Go Hawks, from Dell.
Hey, well, appreciate it, Del, and it's our pleasure. and really appreciate you, becoming a little flocker. I think it should feel good to him too. I mean, as good as it feels for us, it should feel good for him.
I have to imagine it, especially at this, holiday season. It's give yourself a gift of not freeloading.
Don't be free. Freeloading.
There you go.
Just had to throw that in there. We hadn't played that in a few weeks.
Yeah. All right. That worked in nicely. So Dell keeping the streak alive here this season. I figured people would be fired up after that Vikings game, and we'd have a couple new little flockers, but one will do. I'm not going to be unthankful. That's great.
But it is the beginning of the month, and so we have a lot of our 12 and 12-12ers to thank at the end of the show today.
That's always fun, and I think they all look forward to that, don't they?
Bloomquist, Hong Kong Hawk, even sent me an updated intro, and so anybody can update their intro at any time, or if they haven't even sent it in yet, go Hawks at SeahawkersPodcast.com.
Absolutely, be your time to shine.
I haven't called out the Pick'em winners in a couple weeks. I keep forgetting to do that, so we'll go back a few weeks. I think I announced Week 10. It was playoff bound. Just lock it in. That was your winner for Week 10. Colchester Hawk won in Week 11, so congratulations to Edward. Week 12 winner was Piggy0072. I need an address from Robert, though, so email in.
Yeah. Get on that. You want your prizes, right?
Yeah. I need to get those sent out, too.
You'll get on it. You always do.
They've stacked up enough that now's the time. I got stickers out this past week, so stickers and patches. So
Yeah. People need their stinking patches.
Effetti's Gentle Shoves. Speaking of Effetti, there's Mason with the the excellent team name there.
Yeah, that is an excellent team name, and maybe that's prophetic right there.
Yeah.
Like we talked about Effetti, and then his team pops up. So maybe he stays. I don't know.
Yeah, Week 13 winner. So congratulations to Mason. Yeah, it's too bad that I'm kicking your butt so bad in the pick'em that you've quit.
Yeah, I pretty much forgot to do it like 2 weeks in a row, and then I was just like, well, screw it.
Yeah.
That Louisiana trip screwed up the whole thing for me, and it was over.
I'm in like the top 25 right now. So you pretty much have no chance.
Well, yeah, I had no chance when I stopped doing it.
Just saying.
Yeah. I mean, good for you. Do you want me to give you a little clap here, a little slow clap?
Maybe.
There you go. Little pat on the back. Good job, Brandon.
Thank
Good
you.
job, Brandon.
Yeah.
You are a pick'em connoisseur, a pick'em master, a scholar, and a gentleman when it comes to pick'em. You pick things better than anybody else in the world. If there's anybody I know who is more decisive than you, I don't know who it would be. You're the most decisive good picker I have ever met in my life, and I applaud you at your amazing job in the pick'ems using your skills at picking.
Now it seems sarcastic.
I that was genuine.
Got a genuine email here from Hayden in Lexington, Kentucky. Hello, all the way from Lexington. I have been a fan ever since I learned at a young age that Sean Alexander is from Kentucky. It's always been a dream to be able to watch a game in Seattle. This is my first time listening to the show, and you guys are great. So thanks to Hayden.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. And then dropping some knowledge. I had no idea Sean Alexander was from Kentucky.
I knew he went to college in Alabama, but I didn't know he was from Kentucky.
Yep, there you go.
We got an email from the Bard.
Oh, are the pipes warmed up?
I'm warming them up right now. Hello, fellas. Jadavison Clowney here. Because it's John Davison. Jadavison.
Yeah, no, I got it. I got it. Yeah.
It just occurred to me.
Wow. Yeah.
Jadavison Clowney here, and I'm just finishing watching the game, although I got up early Tuesday at 7:30 a.m. and watched it right through without knowing the score. It was a great game, especially the third quarter, when we just went up a gear, although it is Seattle, so they had to make us sweat in the fourth before we finished it off. There were some great performances, especially from the running backs, but someone I have really come to like over the last few weeks is Quandre Diggs, as that was some hit. The O-line were clearing out holes too, and it occurred to me that no one was mentioning Effetti's name. So, does that mean he is getting better? It would be interesting to see if we go up a couple in the power rankings now and are the number 2 seed. I need to sit down now and work out who I want to lose between the 49ers and the Saints. But let's just keep winning and sneaking under the radar. We can't be many wins off a guaranteed playoff spot. Go Hawks. From John the Bard.
Did you read John's email before we started talking about Ifedi?
No.
Really? Because I feel like that all has come full circle in the second half of the show somehow in like a very rando way.
I cut and pasted it, so maybe it was just in my subconscious. So
I don't know. I think the universe is saying something. I might take my opinion back on Ifedi here.
Well, it's out there. It's out there now.
Well, I'll get to some power ranking stuff with my do better for John, but yeah, it's pretty cool to watch the offensive line play a physical style that you can't do anything against, and Ifedi being a key part of that. It's turning out, or at least a cog that you don't look at as a total liability.
I'm telling you, man. Ifedi's on my watch list. I'm not saying he's going to stay. I'm not locking it in or anything, but it just wouldn't shock me if he even, we've seen some of those contracts get done in December. Like if they came out and said they had signed Ifedi for 4 years, $10 million per year, something like that. It wouldn't shock me. Yeah,
I mean, it wouldn't. And really, what other team is going to go out and pay big money for Ifedi?
There's enough places that need tackle help. They just want a dude that they can say, like what, Riley Reef for the Vikings. He's not any outstanding tackle.
He was for a while.
Yeah, but not when the Vikings got him from free agency. Nobody was saying, "Oh my gosh, we got to go out and sign Riley Reif."
True, because his name is Reef. But yeah, they don't.
However, whatever the.
I like how you went all the directions just to cover your ass.
I did.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, right tackle is becoming more and more important in this league with the idea that the premier pass rushers do move around a bit more. And so I think there's something to be said there. Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. Got an email here from Matthew Sauer. Actually, this came in through Facebook. Says, hey guys, absolutely love the pod. I'm going to my first NFL game on December 29th. And you know what that means. Hawks versus Niners. Quick question. Oh, yeah. Would it be bad mojo to wear my autographed Richard Sherman Seahawks jersey to the game? I don't want to mess with the mojo at such an important game. Thanks, guys. Keep up the good work, and go Hawks.
I thought about this for a second, and where I come down on this is, no, it's not bad Hakra. It's not bad mojo. It's none of that. Sherman is ours. He will always be ours. Everybody will always think of him as a Seahawk. He's going in the Ring of Honor. He'll probably go to the Hall of Fame. He's a Super Bowl champion with this team. He's ours. So I don't care that he's wearing the Niners jersey now in that sense. Wear yours, dude.
Yeah, he's actually a Seattle resident. So I may have screwed up on the Earl Thomas decision earlier. Like I was encouraging people to wear the Earl Thomas gear to the Ravens game, and that didn't work out well.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's that, I guess.
But I think there's the difference that Earl Thomas is actually a Texas resident, where Sherman, like, his home is in Seattle. So I do feel like this is more okay, especially with the Earl Thomas stuff in kind of the rearview mirror now.
Yeah, maybe true. I don't know. It's a coin flip, dude. Like, whatever you do, I hope we win. So don't screw it up. There's your advice. Don't screw it up.
There you go, Matthew. I know that's the advice you're looking for.
Be an amazing picker like Brandon. Make a decision and just be sure it's not the wrong one.
And then if the Seahawks lose, it's your fault, and we expect you to come in and take the blame for the loss.
And I would, you know what? At that point, I would share blame. It'd be co-blame.
Would it?
Yeah, because my recommendation is to wear it.
Yeah, but I feel like, it's Matthew's decision to make.
I guess. He asked us. I think he has to do what we say.
This is like asking what to have for dinner. I feel like you're putting us in an unfair position.
I feel like that's a difficult conversation in your household every night.
It's a really difficult conversation.
Just make a decision.
No, we have to have a calendar, and then, okay, what does the calendar say? That way we've already decided.
One thing that people seem to have a difficulty with is the idea of just flat making a decision. They're like, it's so close. I don't know what to do. Well, if that's the case, guess what? Both are probably great and both are probably wrong. So just make one. Just choose one. It doesn't even matter which one it is. Take all the pressure off yourself.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter. They're that close. Just choose.
Just choose and be done.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
Be a decider. Like Brandon.
You know, what I think has helped me this year in the pick'em is not knowing what you're picking and just going through and making my picks and saying, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Because in past years, I've only made my picks during the show and listening to what you say. And see, now I'm just going off of my own gut feeling this year.
So this is better for your deal.
It's better for my deal.
I don't know how to take that.
It's me being competitive and changing my decisions based on me wanting to get
Just
over
trump
on
me,
you for any particular decision you make.
Exactly.
Yeah. I ought to do better and better at life.
All right, my do better this week is for the aforementioned power polls that John Davidson brought up. He's like, hopefully we'll raise up in the power rankings and all that. And I'm not going to point out any one specific one. I mean, I'll talk about a couple. But as a whole, it is perplexing to me how the team that is currently in the lead for the NFC West, the team that has beaten the 49ers, the team that is now currently the 2 seed, is somehow behind the 49ers in almost every single poll.
Just about, yeah.
I can't understand this for the life of me.
Yeah, we should be behind the Ravens. We should be behind the Saints. Because
handle that.
Both those other teams are both 10-2. They both beat us in Seattle in our house.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yet somehow, like in almost every power poll, we're ranked behind the Niners. And then including ESPN, who this week, after a win over the Vikings, a playoff contender, has now dropped us a spot.
Right.
I don't understand that. None of it makes any sense. I've never really loved power polls to begin with, but they feel even stupider after this season. I don't know what anybody's watching. Maybe it's the fact that we win all the close games and like, oh, that's not sustainable. Well, guess what? Once is a coincidence, twice is a trend, 3 times either you problem or it's a certainty. And at this point, it's a certainty. We've been doing it for years. This is no joke. It's how we play. So everybody get on board and pull your head out of your butt and do better.
Well, the power polls and the MVP race are probably what the 2 big hot topics to banter about on social media, especially among Seahawks fans. Yeah. And since you've taken the power rankings, I'm going to have to take the sides of the MVP race. And I'm not just going, is Lamar the MVP? Is Russell the MVP? That's kind of old now, especially when there's a certain person weighing in on this. But how would you characterize, Adam? We know that there's 2 guys that everybody's talking about, Lamar, Russell Wilson. How would you characterize the MVP race as far as, who's in the lead, or is anybody really in the lead? How would you characterize that?
Painfully predictable.
Painfully, what? Just in terms of
why it is how it is right now.
Painfully.
I mean, yeah, it's painfully predictable. Number one, where do the Baltimore Ravens reside?
Oh, on the East Coast, yeah.
Yeah. Are they always a media darling?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Is Lamar Jackson flashier than Russell Wilson?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, he's Michael Vick 2.0.
Sure. And fine. That's cool.
It is cool.
I get it. Yeah.
It makes it fun.
I'm not even mad at Lamar. I like his game. So you combine all those things. And so for captain consistency, Russell Wilson playing in South Alaska, just going out there and getting it done week in, week out on a team that many people thought not only last year wouldn't make the playoffs, but wouldn't make the playoffs this year either, let alone be 10-2, number 2 seed, beating the 49ers and right up there. Like, of course, the media can't help but follow all over themselves for Lamar Jackson. And at the end of the day, I don't care. I don't care if Russell never wins an MVP, because it is so much more of a pointless award than it is in the NBA. Because in the NBA, like, a lot of different dudes have been the MVP, whether you're a center or a guard or whatever, right? In the NFL, there's only one way to win the MVP. Be a quarterback, put up big numbers. That's it. Nothing else matters.
Well, you took it in a direction I wasn't necessarily going to go with it. I was just looking for a couple of words to characterize the race in general, in terms of, do you think Lamar's in the lead? Do you think he's running away with it? Do you think it's Russell's to lose? Just a short description of it.
Yeah. Painfully predictable. How about that?
Painfully predictable.
They're gonna give it to Lamar.
Well, if you're O.J. Simpson, I think there's probably some words that you should go ahead and remove from your vocabulary.
Like stab, knife, glove, blood, Nicole, like any of those ones?
But watching that game last night, something came to me. I attended my first professional game, 49ers, in 1957. 62 years ago. Since that time, of course, I played 11 years in the NFL. I've worked the sidelines. I've worked in the studio. I've watched football. I have never, ever seen a player more valuable to his team winning than Russell Wilson. The man has been incredible. Now, going into last night, I had Lamar Jackson as my leader for MVP. Nobody gives you more oohs and ahs and oh my gods than Lamar. But after last night, I got to say these two guys are dead even.
Dead even? Dead even. There's 100 different ways the Juice could describe this MVP race. He decides to go with the term dead even? Well, I suppose you wanted to go with neck and neck, but that was maybe too insensitive, and you wanted to tone it down, or say something like you could cut the tension in this MVP race with a knife. You didn't want to go there. Hey, OJ, maybe you should handle what you say on your Twitter account with some kid gloves in this. And most of all, I don't want to hear you talking about my quarterback. Do better.
Yeah. So, is OJ trying to be like a cool guy again?
I guess.
Like, is he trying to like up his Q rating? Is he trying to be more likable again?
He does these 2-minute videos every few days that he posts to his Twitter account.
Well, I appreciate that he's taking a stab at trying to get back into the good graces of the public, but I mean, he's dead wrong if he thinks that he's going to make, an impact. And, it just doesn't fit him back in the culture. And so, if he was doing the best thing for himself, he would have quit himself from this and just stop.
Nailed it.
Low-hanging fruit, man. Low-hanging fruit.
Well, the Juice needs to do better. I don't need him weighing on the MVP race.
Well, so where did this video pop up at?
Just on Twitter.
Oh, so if it happens on Twitter,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Remember that, people. I know some people are all upset because apparently there's people killing Russell Wilson for his mic'd up performance on Monday night. It
was some dude with like 3,000 Twitter follows and a check mark.
Okay, whatever that means. But
he was saying that Russ's mic'd up session was cringy.
Oh, well, I can see how you would take positive motivational speech and language that you've been training your brain with and try to impart it onto your teammates to motivate them and help clear their mind to perform at their best as really cringy. Yeah. I can see how you get that. What are you talking about? And it happened on Twitter. And so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, it's all so stupid. It's like this Baby Yoda crap. What the hell is this?
Oh, this is awesome.
No, it is not awesome. It is not awesome. Everything's a Baby Yoda now. From out of nowhere.
Well, it's not necessarily out of nowhere. I mean, there's this new show out that's on Disney Plus that everybody's watching.
The Dandalorian or whatever it's called.
The Mandalorian.
Whatever.
The Dandalorian.
It's just dumb. Because at first everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's Russell's Baby Yoda. And now I get on Bleacher Report, and now it's Kyler Murray as Baby Yoda. And tomorrow it's going to be your mom as Baby Yoda. Boo!
What happened was I think it was Cable Thanos that made the graphic.
Of course that crackhead is the guy that actually came up with this. Of course.
And then it started going around Twitter a little bit, and the Seahawks picked it up, and they said if they got... Because Russell has his campaign going where he's trying to raise $33,000, $333 for a birthday charity. And so the Seahawks said if they got 33,333 retweets, that they'd change the Seahawks profile picture. And it happened. And Russell Wilson, he saw it, and he changed it to his profile picture too.
Cool.
I'm trying to give people who are wondering where this all came from some of the background into it.
Oh, well,
I don't even know if I have the entire timeline perfect, but I think I got the gist of it.
Do you have the NBC The More You Know sounder to play after that?
Just this one.
Yards don't matter.
There we go. Close enough. That works for me.
That's the only sounder I have.
Okay.
Other than this one, which you deserve. For not watching The Mandalorian.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I dropped out of Star Wars when Disney took over.
You're missing out. It's okay.
Am I?
Yeah.
Am I?
Baby Yoda is the cutest thing since the Ewoks.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm not into it. You know what I am into, Brandon?
You're better at life.
People who are better at life than Skip Bayless. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You know who's better at life than Skip Bayless this week? All of the members of the Ring of Honor who participated in Slack on the Vikings channel during this game. So one of the coolest things about this group of people is that we're all as hardcore fandom as you can be for the most part. Like we couldn't love the Seahawks more. Like nothing more in the world we want than to see the Seahawks win at all costs, right?
Right.
Except for one. And this is something that became galvanizing and universal about as fast as people could type it in. Dalvin Cook goes down with injury, looks to be crying on the field.
Yeah.
Bummer. I'm typing, gee, I hope, Cook is okay. And since I hut and peck like a 40-year-old and it takes me forever, there's 10 messages like that all pop down. And that's the sound they make. And they all pop down. And it's everybody, to a man and a woman. Like, hey, I really hope this dude's not hurt. That really sucks. Yeah. Like everybody has the best version of sports hate and fandom, and they're classy, and the Ring of Honor and all you little flockers are freaking amazing. You guys better at life than Skip Bayless.
I love it. I love the call out for our Ring of Honor Slack group, the Ring of Honor Facebook group. And the other thing that I love about it is that we've all decided, like one person in the group can be super negative throughout the game, and it's DCH. It's his designated reverse jinx that he has the power to control throughout the game. And we've all decided, okay, he's the one that gets it. And so that way we have that covered in case we need it. And everybody else, it's, you can be critical. There's that line of critical and being overly negative. And we have the designated overly negative guy with DCH, and it works out beautifully.
Right. And it has a purpose and he has a magic to it. And that's why it works.
Right. He's good at it.
Yeah. He's very good at it. So you let him run that show. Right. I tried to stand on his corner for half of a second, and I put in when we were up 17 that, I can't wait to watch him blow this and we can win by like 7 or less again. And then guess what happened? Because I tried standing on DCH's corner. Shouldn't have done it.
No, you shouldn't have. It is.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, we know whose job that is. You don't try and do it yourself.
Nope.
You let the master work his profession.
Yes.
Well, one master, I'm going to allow work his profession going down the stretch. And I did this a couple weeks back. I gave a preemptive better at life to Lamar Jackson.
Right.
And it was his motivation to help him go out to beat the Rams and beat the 49ers. He went and did that. And so I kind of feel good about myself by giving him that preemptive better at life. But now, going down the next stretch of 4 games, I'm going to use my power of persuasion and motivation that clearly pulled away from some of the forces directed toward Russell Wilson over the last couple games. I'm now going to pull those back. The good thing is Russell Wilson got through it, but now I've got to shift that focus. I've got to shift that focus and force back toward our quarterback, Adam. Because now he also has not just the power that I'm giving him, but he has the power and force of Baby Yoda behind him. We've discussed that. So let's go get it, down the stretch run, finish out the season. And I'm not even worried about the MVP race. That's going to sort itself out. I'm concerned about what matters. Get out there, Russ, and win the Seahawks another NFC West title. Because you are better at life than Skip Bayless.
Now, see, I like where you took the turn there. Like, not even much worrying about the MVP, but more just like, let's get the division title.
Yeah. Let the other stuff take care of itself.
Again, MVP is a bit of a joke when it comes to NFL. In the NBA, I feel like it matters a lot more.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it makes more sense.
Except once a guy has won it like 2 or 3 times in a row, it somehow disqualifies him from winning it, even though he's the best player.
Yeah, that's happened a couple times. I mean, Karl Malone got the benefit of that, right? Couldn't give it to MJ again. I know, Shaq missed a couple because of Steve Nash. You can go back and you can point to a few, but whatever. Like overall, like anybody's kind of got a shot, whether you're in a small market or big market. I mean, Giannis was last year. He might even be again this year.
LeBron didn't get very many MVP titles, even though
he's had a few.
Enough.
And then he also decided to go and play with 3 or 4 other stars at any given time. And so he doesn't have to do as much. So his numbers don't look quite as great and he doesn't end up winning MVP. So there's a little bit of, self-blame there.
Yeah. Well, now that he's with the Lakers, I can imagine that you have just a little bit more disdain for him than you did before.
As a Celtic fan, he bothered me when he played for the Cavs. He really bothered me when he played for the Heat. And now as a Laker, every time, the puke that comes up into my mouth in the back of the throat is the same color as Laker yellow, and I have to swallow it back down. So it's fine.
All right. Well, glad we got some NBA talk in. It is the season, apparently. And what do you say we close out the show, as we always do, with a big thanks to our $12 per month subscribers and more. And let's get to it.
Keith Ketover, a.k.a. Flocktimus Prime, University of Cybertron, Little Flockers, roll out.
DCH from Sparks, Nevada, the University of Montana Grizzlies.
Annalisa Mickelson, a.k.a. Mrs. Doug Baldwin, New York, New York, undergrad, University of North Carolina, Greensboro, graduate school, Brooklyn College.
Eric Trench, rooting for the Seahawks out of Renton, Washington, graduated from Eastern Washington University.
Gary Blum from Chappaqua, New York, and the University of Pennsylvania, your 2016 Pick'em League champion.
Ron Pepper, UNLV Runnin' Rebels, San Francisco, California.
Hong Kong! Hong Kong! Hong Kong!
Kevin Stengham, Keene, Texas.
Ella Esparza, Woodway, Texas, Yale University, and Sam Houston State, Eat 'em Up Cats.
Lisa in Seattle.
Vincent Parker, Emily Carr, University of Art Design, RN Collective.
Samuel Gelber, NoHo, California.
David Van Cleve, Camas, Washington, home of the Papermakers.
Leo Jose, Luleå, Sweden, from Luleå Eskimos and Vancouver in France.
Paul from San Diego. Hector Delgadillo from Los Angeles, California.
This is Bryce Shaw from Sherwin, Texas. I'm 11 years old and spent my allowance to join the Ring of Honor. Do better and go Hawks.
Jamison Holman from Murray, Utah, representing Mississippi State University. Hail State and go Hawks.
Hey Seahawkers, my name is Garen Taylor. I live in one of the most beautiful places in the world, North Idaho. Hashtag on the Rose. Go Hawks.
And continuing on down the list, starting with executive producer Dustin Mock, Ross in Eureka, California, Christina in Manassas, Virginia, Craig in Camas, Sven in Berlin, Deutschland, James in Linwood, Roe in Federal Way, Young in Anchorage, Becca in Manhattan Beach, California, Tim in Austin, John Paul in Palmer, Alaska, Kathy in Eureka, California, Jared in Missoula, Joshua in London, Brandon in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, Christian in Bergen, Norway, Jonathan in Ridgefield, Thomas in the Bronx, Glenn in Sanford, Florida, Mitchell in Roseville, California, Keegan in Colorado Springs, Owen in Ashburn, Ireland, Jeffrey in Kansas City, Kari in Rochester, Jeff in Waddell, Arizona, Brian in Berlin, Connecticut, Eric in Seattle, Tracy in Kaneohe, Hawaii, Connie in Gothenburg, Sweden, Taylor in South Cle Elum, Paul in Minneapolis, Seth in Tacoma, John in New York, Pepper in Greenville, South Carolina, Dawn in the Pacific Northwest, Lisa in Kelowna, BC, Dean in the Greater Hawkdom, Marvin in Riverdale, Utah, Brian in the Greater Hawkdom, JC in Billericay, England, Scott in Bakersfield, California, Chris in Spokane, Kevin in Sammamish, Bryson in Eltopia, John in Chehalis, Shannon in Florida, John in the Greater Hawkdom, Shoko in New York, Greg in Seattle, Ryan in Chatham, England, Ben in Wrexham, Wales, Joshua in Candor, New York, Kenneth in Hutto, Texas, Jeremy in the Bronx, DK in Ferndale, Paul in Boston, Mario in Pullman, Kyler in Plainfield, Illinois, Jeremy in Moses Lake, Benjamin in Woodinville, Steve in Langley, Cora in Ditters, Deutschland, Jeff in Monroe, Warren in Dundee, Oregon, and Chris in Austin. 81 names in total. I hope I'm not missing anybody. Really appreciate those of you who have gone to getintheflock.com, whether you're at 12 and above or whether you're below the $12 a month mark. We appreciate each and every one of you. An incredible group.
You guys are the best.
And with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
And so since you've gone ahead and taking, why do I keep saying taking? Since you've gone ahead and taken...
Taking your spot?
What?
And taking your spot?
Taking. Yeah, yeah, just keep drilling it into my head, why don't you?
Yeah, taking. Try it again, taking.
I'm going to make another taking of this. Taking 2. Taking 3.
Come on, man. Let's see it. Let's go. You're taking a lot of time here.